Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Ultimate Fan Fix, brought to you in association with Ultimate Fan. While the season may be over, there is still plenty of discussion points to be made here at Ultimate Fan HQ in preparation for the upcoming campaign. This week I'm joined by Ultimate Fan contributor and five-a-side wizard Tom Pearce. How are we doing today, Tom? All good?
Yeah, all good, thank you. Once again, not sure about the five-a-side wizard this time. It's football, extraordinary, whatever last week. Now
you got too much pride. You got to admit it. It's absolute monster in the middle of the park. So awesome. Right, we'll launch straight into our hidden gem teams. So both myself and Tom have picked out a team of players that have picked up the points but have not gained the recognition they deserve in Ultimate Fan this year. Both of us will name two defenders, two midfielders, a forward, a flex player, and a team card to make up the perfect hidden gem team. We'll kick off with our defender picks then. I've seen you've gone with two interesting picks here, Tom. There's one that I'm a personal fan of in the game. Do you mind revealing to us who they are?
Yeah, so the first one's Matty Cash. I think he performed really well in Ultimate Fan last season, especially since the arrival of Steven Gerrard at Aston Villa. He was the third highest tackler in the top 20 defenders with 51. He was solid going forward, 13 shots on target. But he managed 3 assists and 4 goals, which is something I actually think he'll better next season. And with 162 points, he finished as the 5th highest scoring defender this season, which I think may surprise a few people actually. So he had a really good season. And then my other player is Pontus Jansson. No base defender scored more points than Jansson this season. He only kept 8 clean sheets and made 21 tackles, but he netted 3 times and registered 1 assist, which isn't bad for a centre half. And he picked up an overall 101 points as well, which isn't bad for his first season in the Prem.
Yeah, it's not a bad season at all, to be fair. Matty Cash is, as much as he's a Villa player, and I absolutely despise Villa, he's been great in terms of tackle points, and he's not scared to go forward. And you kind of, with the game that Ultimate Fan is, you need a defender that's not scared to push forward and have the odd shot on target or even find the net, as Matty Cash proved to this year. My two picks are going a bit of different direction here. I've gone with Marc Cucurella as my first pick of Brighton. He's managed to break into the top 20 defenders this year, despite only having 1 goal and 1 assist. And it's purely thanks to his tackle points. He picked up 60 this year, which is quite an impressive total. He picked up 10 clean sheets as well with Brighton, which is an extra 30 points on his total. And I felt he was a great all-rounder in terms of picking up points. And he guaranteed you a handful of points every week. It'll be a real deal next year if he manages to find more attacking returns for players. And I think he's one to watch out for, especially with the way that Brighton are playing as of late. And I've also got another one to watch out for in Emerson Royal of Tottenham. He's also in the top 20 as well. In fact, he's 20th. He had 99 points last year. And once again, it was the same as Cucurella. It was thanks to his tackle points. And obviously playing in a defence as stern as Tottenham's, he will get clean sheet points as well. With the development that he could potentially have under Conte as well, he could become a real threatening wing back for Spurs in the coming years. So he's probably one to watch there as well. Onto our two midfielder selections now, Tom. I've seen you've also gone for a Villa player here as well. I can say he looks very excited as well, and probably a respectable player from one of the relegated teams as well.
Yeah, so Maxwell Cornet, obviously, he did end up getting relegated with Burnley, but he had a good season considering, and he missed quite a bit of football last season due to injury and AFCON. So he made just 26 appearances in the league. However, he found the net on 9 occasions whilst registering 1 assist. And he made it into the top 20 midfielders despite not playing a huge amount of football. And he ended up with 147 points to end the season, which isn't a bad tally at all. And then, as you said, I'm going for another Villa player, but this one's because I didn't think anyone would have called him having the season he had at the start of the season, and that's Jacob Ramsey. He was a good tackler with 45 points. He hit the target 11 times, so he was always picking up odd points here and there. But he finished the season with 6 goals and 1 assist and a nice 131 points, just finishing just outside the top 20 midfielders.
Yeah, I was going to say both picks are quite interesting. Maxwell Cornet, I suppose he won't be staying in the Championship, and potentially we'll see him back as a Premier League card next season. If anybody knows me, I've been raving about this player that I've named for months, and that's because in Ultimate Fan, he's a completely different player, and that's Christian Norgard. When you look at his base stats, he's had 4 goals, 4 assists. He doesn't scream fantasy value, but in this game, he makes a massive difference to your team. He picked up 60 points just for tackles alone this year, and he's a top 20 midfielder card in the game. And he is a difference maker for your team. He's such a good player overall. And I'm really excited by Christian Norgard. I really, really wanted to pack him, and unfortunately, I just didn't get him. He's been a standout star for me. You know, a lot of people wouldn't pick him because he doesn't score, but you do get points for tackles in this game, and he'll make a massive difference there. And that's the same with the next player I've picked as well, John McGinn. He only had 5 goals and 4 assists all year, but he made a whopping 64 tackles in the middle of the field. And he also had 20 shots on target as well. So he is the definition of an all-round midfielder in this game. He's in the top 15 midfielders as well. And he's just such a good player to have in your team, especially when you're looking at the players that make the difference. As much as if you land a player who picks up 40 points and then you get 2s and 3s across the board, McGinn would be there with 6 or 7 points that could easily bump you up a couple of spots if it was a good week. So, yeah, I'm praising the Villa again, but John McGinn, you can't ignore him. Time for our forwards now. So we're only going to go with one here, Tom. Who's leading your attacking line here?
I'm going to go with Ivan Toney. I think he did much better than I expected anyway. He picked up a massive 221 points without playing in any of the international game weeks as well. So it is an impressive tally. He made 21 tackles, which isn't bad for a forward. With 12 goals and 5 assists, he had a really positive first season in the Prem and on Ultimate Fan.
Yeah, I think those tackle points do make a difference. And obviously Ivan Toney as well. There was a lot of expectation for him to come up and deliver in the way that he has for the past 2 years. And maybe it's not the total that he wanted, but it was still quite an impressive haul, especially with the fact that obviously he didn't play any European game weeks as well. So that does make a difference there. But still a nice tally for the Brentford striker. I've gone with someone who did benefit from the European game weeks, and that was Teemu Pukki. He was a top 8 striker for a team that was considered relegation fodder all season. He's really delivered in that type of aspect. He's had 14 goals and 4 assists, 32 shots on target, and 12 tackles, and that's quite a nice total of 232 points. And from a silver striker who's playing for a team that really struggled to find the net, he really did pick up the points, and he was a little gem for those who packed him. I think it's a shame that he's not going to most likely be in the game next year, but we'll wait and see. Next up is that all-important flex spot. Who takes up that position for you, Tom?
So I've gone with another forward, and that's Emmanuel Dennis. Despite getting relegated, with Watford, he still had a good season on Ultimate Fan. He averaged more than a tackle per game, with 34 tackles from 33 appearances, which is very good for a forward. But it was his goal contributions which saw him rack up all his points with 10 goals and 6 assists. He managed to haul in an impressive 210 points throughout the season.
Yeah, I thought he was a great player if you got your hands on him early on in the year, but he just seems to have drifted off the ball the last 10 weeks or so, hasn't he? Hasn't been delivering as much as he did at the beginning, but he was still a great haul overall if you did get him. I've gone with a forward myself here. Do you feel forwards are probably the best option for your flex spot?
Yeah, when it comes to scoring points, it's the goals that really push up the leaderboards, and forwards are the ones who get all the goal, well, most of the goals. So
the scoring is definitely centralised around that, and I think you are right. I think having 2 forwards in your team is much better than having 3 defenders or 3 midfielders. So I completely agree with you in that aspect, and that's why I've gone with a forward myself. I've gone with Brighton's Leonardo Trossard. It's just top 20 forward again. It's just one of them that he's just snuck under the radar. He's had a productive season. He's had 8 goals and 3 assists. He's had 27 shots on target, 20 tackles, which again, tackles count for something here, and 20 tackles has bumped him a bit higher up in the board. I think he's been an interesting player for Brighton and potentially a little gem as well, especially that he's not gold, and players that didn't have access to the gold packs early on in the year definitely could have benefited from a player like Trossard. Right, so the last card that we're going to go on to is the team card. Which Premier League side have you gone with, Tom?
Yeah, I've gone with Brentford. They, first season in the Prem, and they actually finished 3 places higher in the Ultimate Fan leaderboard than they did in the Premier League table. And I've banged on about it for a long time that saves are absolutely massive in Ultimate Fan for your team card. And only Leeds, Norwich, and Leicester picked up more save points than Brentford this season. And they finished with a solid 214 points, making them the 10th best team in Ultimate Fan from last season.
That's fair enough. Yeah, Brentford have had a great season. In all fairness to them, a lot of people, I think they were the favourites to go down actually when I look back at it. But they put up a great performance in the end. Some of the football they played was sublime, and they're deservedly getting a second season. But fingers crossed that second season syndrome doesn't catch up with them. I've gone with Wolves. The end of season form was atrocious. I can't defend it in the slightest. But at the beginning, the first 2/3 of the season, they were a fantastic selection to have in this game, particularly because of Jose Sarr. His save points were unbelievable the first 2/3 of the season. I think in the end he racked up 125, but for quite a fair amount of the season, I think he led in save points. And they were they were gold dust at the beginning, especially when you get a point per save. So he was quite a busy keeper, and I felt that was the reason that Wolves was so popular as a team card, and particularly if I got them in my pack, so I used them on a fair amount of occasions. The only issue with them was their inconsistency. They couldn't seem to string results together sometimes, and they seemed to go on these runs, specifically proven at the end of the season. They just seemed to go on these runs where they couldn't seem to get any points at all. Right, so those are our two teams right there. Tom, are you happy with those selections? Are there any that you feel nearly made the cut but they didn't?
Off the top of my head, probably not. I think two sort of decent teams that would have done well throughout the season that not many people would have expected to pick up the points. So yeah, I think we've got two pretty good teams there.
No, I think the only one for me, and the only reason I didn't pick him was purely because he's a gold card, and that was James Maddison. Obviously, he's very well backed anyway, and he's quite a popular player among fantasy players. But especially those last 3 or 4 games of the season, he was absolute gold dust. He just kept delivering with double points, and I felt like that little spell wasn't good enough to make it for my team. But he's definitely one to keep an eye out for in the next season and the seasons to come. Right, that's it for this week from me and Tom for the Ultimate Fan Fix. Make sure to check out our social channels on Twitter and Facebook, and keep an eye on our feed as well. We'll keep it updated during the Nations League in the summer as we build up for the Premier League campaign. We're getting closer. There's only 6 or 7 weeks left to go, so we'll see you soon. Thanks for joining, Tom.
Cheers.